see. Nope. Same thing. All right, everyone, we're going to give this a second shot. Let me get the comments loaded so I can see if you're still out there. And we're going to get moving. Okay, we're back reconnected. Let's see how this goes. Take 2 again. All right, so we've got, I did show you all the paper. Let me go ahead and turn the camera down. All right, so this is the piece that we're going to be working with. There's 2 sheets like this. Now we're going to make 3 slimline cards using this set. So what you're going to do is measure, and you can do this with any 12 by 12 piece of pattern paper that has these designs. So you just want to measure out what you're going to use and then fit it into the card base that you're going to create. So in this case, we're going to start with a base card of 8 3/4 by 7.5. Hey, Wendy. Welcome. Bear with me because we've been having some network technical issues. So if we lose you, I'll come back. This is my second try. And if I lose it, then I'll record it and then I'll post it to the page once we get done, and also to YouTube. So thank you for joining us. So using the Utterly Awesome, Amazing stamp set bundle that we're going to work with in this beautiful paper, we're going to make 3 slimline cards. And so depending on the pattern that you have that you want to use, you're going to cut it accordingly. So the first thing we're going to do is I started out with a card base of 8 3/4 by 7.5, and then score it at 3 3/4. So that gives us a size of cardstock that will fit in a business size envelope. Hello again, Karen. Sorry about that. So again, your base card is 8 3/4 by 7.5, and then you're going to score that at 3 3/4. And again, it will fit in a business size envelope, or you can make your own envelope out of pattern paper. Just lay it down, wrap it around, and you'll get an idea of how much you'll need. All right, and then the second layer, in this particular one, I did a lemon lime twist, and that layer is going to be 8.5 by 3.5. And then the designer paper, I cut down to 8 1/4 by 3 3/8. So what we're going to do when you cut this is, what I did was I came down, I cut about 1 inch off of the top, and then that gave me about the 3/4 that I needed to get this pattern, and then I cut this off once I got to the 7.5. So we cut that off right there, and if you look, I made a card using that particular piece right here. That's what was left over, so I went ahead and just made a quick, simple card. All right. Now the other part of this suite, we've got this new rope twine. Isn't this gorgeous? I've never seen this before, and it's soft and just pliable. And this is in Lost Lagoon. And then we have these beautiful embellishments that are Riverside Irregular Pearls, and they're kind of iridescent. You can kind of get an idea of what those look like as well. Oh, thanks, Patty. So far, so good. We'll keep our fingers crossed. All right, let me look at something. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead now. Since I've already, I'm just showing you, this is the piece. Now, again, if you have any kind of pattern paper like this, you can make whatever cards. Just cut it, even if you didn't want to do the longer cards, the streamline or whatever cards, you can cut this down. Like you could cut this at maybe 4. Let's see, if you want to get those 2 otters in there, you could cut this. You probably have to cut his tail off a little bit, but you can mark this at like 4.5 and just make that into a card and just trim it down. So there's different ways, but this is a great way that you can kind of get a lot of use out of that particular paper. All right, so this is what sheets that I have now. All right. So I am going to first go ahead and I'm going to get my cardstock cut and scored, and I'm going to bring in the paper trimmer. So I'm going to take this piece right here, and I want these guys, but this I know I'm going to have to trim off right here because that's going to make it too big. All right, so I'm going to come in with the paper trimmer, and I'm going to remove probably about 1 inch of that, so that I can get the design that I want onto the card. So I'm gonna, let me flip this way. Let's cut an inch. So I'm going to line it up. We might do 3/4 of an inch. Let's see. I'm going to do maybe we'll do it. Let me start with a half, and then I'm going to measure it down. All right, so let's get a 1/2 inch, and then you can always use this on another card. So we're going to cut a 1/2 inch off. Okay, so I'm going to put this off to the side and use it for something else. So in my instructions, I said the designer paper needs to be at 3 3/8 by 8 1/4. So if we come down and look at this, we want 3 3/8, right? So that's going to be 3, and it's going to be 2 notches over the quarter mark. So that's going to give us a pretty good piece right there that we can cut. Actually, I might cut this down a little bit because I want to get some of those leaves in there. So if I leave it like that, then I could probably cut this at 3 3/4. Around the 3 3/4 4-inch mark. So let's trim this one more. We don't need that water right there. So I'm going to trim that off again. Let's move it up to a 1/2. Let's see. Yeah, let's do a 1/2 inch, and let's see what that does. Nope, let's make it a 1/4. So technically, we would have taken off 3/4 of an inch. All right, and again, you can use this for anything on the inside of the card. All right, now I want to cut this, so I'm going to turn it around, and I want this at 3 3/8. So that's 3 1/4. I'm moving it over to 3 3/8, and that's going to put my trimmer right in this line where I'm going to have some of that greenery popping up from the other piece right here. All right, so if you can see that. So we're going to cut that down, and actually, let's move it over. I'm going to move it over let's move it over to one more notch. All right, so we're gonna leave it at 3 3/8. All right, so we're gonna cut that down. Now my paper needs to be at 8 1/4, right? So if I bring this, let me flip it around this way because we want to cut off. We want it at 8 1/4. No, I don't want to cut off that guy. We want to cut off this part. So we're gonna line this up at 8 1/4, and that means I'd be cutting part of him off, right? So I don't want to do that. We want him in the picture. So we're going to have to do some manipulating on this paper to see how we want, if we want these 3 guys to be in this picture or not. So if I have this at 10 inches, I could cut off 2 here, and then we'd need to bring it down. Actually, that would be 10, right? And we want 8 1/4. So we could cut a little bit off. This one's going to be a little tricky, but let's just see. Let's go ahead and cut right here next to this guy here. All right, so now we're at the 10-inch mark. So I think we're going to come back and probably cut off part of this little boy's tail. So we want to get this down to 8 1/4. I'm going to move it up just a notch, and actually he's going to end up coming off. So let's just do 8 1/4. We'll just 8 1/4. Let's go up. I'm going to just try to go up. Yeah, let's do it at 8 1/4. So let's do 8 1/4. This little dude's going to come off. We're just going to have his little head peeking out in the water. Now, hopefully I cut that right. We'll find out, won't we? Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the green. So my designer piece, my cardstock for the second layer is 8 1/2 by 3 1/2. And then we're going to take a piece of gray granite, and I'm going to cut this at 8 3/4 by 7 1/2. So I'm going to take on the 8 1/2 side, and I'm going to cut this at 7 1/2. So we're going to take that and cut that at 7 1/2. And we're just going to move this over to the side just for another piece to use at a later date. And then we're going to bring this down to 8 3/4. So we're going to cut this at 8 3/4. Oops, my cutting blade decided, hang on a minute, it's popped up off the track. Hang on. Well, isn't that something? Hold on a minute. Let me get him in the track. He's popped off. All right, let's get this back at 8 3/4. All right, let's try that again. There we go. 8 3/4. I'm gonna have to shave this piece off a little bit. And we'll just take the, we'll take our sanding tool and we can sand this down as soon as I can locate it. Give me 1 second. There it is. So I'm just going to sand that down a little bit since my blade is wasn't cooperating. Actually, let's just do this. Let's just trim a hair of this off. It's not going to make that much difference. So let's just go back and we'll cut that again. There we go. We just cut a little hair off. And then we're going to score this at 3 3/4. So we're going to make that 3 3/4, which will be the middle of our card. Okay. And now we have our card base. So we're going to go ahead and fold that and give it a good burnish. Let me move the trimmer out of the way for a moment. All right, and we'll get our bone folder and burnish this. All right, so this is our gray granite. Now we're going to come in with our, this is Old Olive. We're going to do a second layer at Old Olive, and again, that is 8.5 by 3.5. And then we're going to add our little otters to this, and we're going to put that right like that. And this is the back side. Isn't that cute, the pebbles? All right, so we're going to go ahead. I hate to cover this up too because this is really pretty colors. It's got pretty peacock and some corally and the pecan pie. All right, so we're going to go ahead and layer that right here. And this is going to be a really tight layer because we only cut it down like by 1/8 of an inch. So we've got a little bit of like a 1/16 of an inch on the top and the bottom. All right, and then that piece is going to go on here. Now, one thing that we can do is we're going to add some twine. And since we have room at the top, boom, let me do this one more time because this little guy doesn't want to cooperate, does he? All right, so we're going to add the twine, or the rope, I should say, and we're going to wrap it around. I'm going to leave enough here where I can tie it. I'm just going to do a knot, and we're going to wrap this around, and I think I'm going to do it towards the bottom. No, let's do it towards the top. So we're going to wrap it around 2 times, and bring that up. And get that started right there, and I'm going to trim that off, and then we're going to tie a knot with this. And then I'm going to, before we do anything, I want it to, let's crisscross our, so let's take that piece off, and we're going to wrap it around and do a little twisty so it looks like it's crossing each other. So let's pull this piece up here. All right, I'm going to leave that much there, and I'm going to bring this around. And you can do this once you get it on here. I want to just cross it like that so it leaves like a mark. And then we'll bring this piece up, and we'll go ahead and tie them off. And then I can move them around once we get the knot tied and trim everything up. That's probably the easiest way to get your twine or ribbon, whatever it is that you're going to use on here. So let's go ahead and tie this off to the side, and we'll slide all this up. So we're doing this before we attach this to our card base. So we're just going to tie this off into a knot and try to get it as tight as we can. And as you can see, I need to get my nails cut. All right, hang on a minute. Here we go. Should be using my tweezers. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to pull it taut and then pull this guy in and tighten up this knot. There we go. All right, so then to make it crisscrossed, all you got to do is just lift them up and cross them over in front of each other. And that gives you that look. All right. We'll spread it open just a little bit, move it up off the otter's head. And then let's trim off these little pieces because we don't want too much hanging over. All right, and we're going to move that up. We could have put this towards the bottom. Let's do that. Let's just slide it down. I think it might look prettier down here. Let's do it at the bottom. That way he's not interfering with the heads. So let's move that down here. See how it easily slides? And then we're just going to add this to our card base using your adhesive. So we're going to go ahead and attach that. We'll just add that all along the edges here. All right. And then we're going to pop that down. This one, I'm not going, you can put a sentiment. I don't think I'm going to put one on here. I am going to add a fish. There are the fishes that are right here, and I did cut some out using one of the dies. So I'm going to add a little fish. He's going to be the big fish in the pond. I'm going to put him like right here underneath. Put him over here with these other fish so he kind of blends in. So we'll glue him down. Just put a little bit of glue, not much. We're going to tap him right there. All right. And then, do we want, let's put another one. I think I cut out 6 of them. We'll put one up here with this other guy. All right, so we're going to put a little bit there. I know the twine is a really pretty color, isn't it? And then let's put this guy right here like he's following along in the school, because you can see the other fish that are right there that have been created on the paper itself. All right, so there's that card. Now, again, then you'll just cut the same 8 1/4 by 3 3/8 piece of basic white to go on the inside of your card so that you can write your message. And if you want to put a sentiment on here, you've got plenty of room that you can do so. I'm just going to leave it blank and let the otters do kind of be the show, and then I'll just write my message on the inside of the card. All right, so there's that piece. Now we're going to move on to the next section of this paper, which is the last piece that we have. And that's these guys here. So we're going to cut this down as well to get this to match. Now this one I'm using a piece of Lost Lagoon cardstock. So let's go ahead and get this cut down first. And we're on the 8 1/2 side, so I'm going to cut it down to, what am I kind of down to? 7 1/2. So let's move this over to 7 1/2. So we're just going to cut an inch off that side. And you can save that for future use and then turn it. And then this one is going to be cut at 8 3/4. So that gives you another nice piece that you can use for something else. Then we're going to turn it back the opposite direction and line it up at 3 3/4, which is where we're going to make our score so that we can fold our card. Make sure your paper is up there evenly. All right, so there's our score. So we'll take the Lost Lagoon and we're going to go ahead and fold that in half and give it a good burnish with our bone folder. Layer is 8 1/2 by 3 1/2. So we're going to line that up just like that, but I'm not going to glue that down until I cut my paper. So again, you can see this is bigger, so we need to trim this down. So if this is 8 1/2 by 3 1/2, then we want to cut our paper, the designer paper, to 8 1/4 by 3 3/8, right? So first thing we're going to do is cut it at 3 3/8, because then we want to determine, let's see where we're going to go with it. Hang on. Since we got the otters on the right side, let's figure out on the left side. We're going to turn it this way, and we're going to, let's go ahead and get our length, and then we can trim it down. That gives us a better piece in case we want to use it for another card. So we want this to be at 8 1/4. So let's move it over to the 8 1/4 mark, and that's going to cut it right about here, right? So 8 1/4, so we're going to cut that off, and now we've got this piece we can work with. And we're going to turn this. Thanks, Linda. Yeah, I'm glad it's working too. Thank you. So now we're going to take this and we're going to trim off enough to make this 3 3/8, which actually there's 3 3/8, so we're right there. We'll cut off, I don't really want to cut off those rocks because I like those. So I'm going to turn it around this way, and we're going to cut it off at let me see, 3 3/8. Give me just a second right there. So we're just going to trim a little bit off the top. Actually, I'm going to move it over a little bit. So I'm going to trim some off the top and then some off the bottom. All right, so we'll trim that little piece off. That puts us at 3 1/2. So let's trim just a little bit off the bottom because I want to keep those rocks right there. So that shouldn't take too much off. There we go. So now we have this piece we can use for something. We can always stamp and put a otter on there if we want to. And we can do that. So we want to use up all of our pieces if at all possible. All right, so this one we're going to add. Whoops, helps if we put them on here right side up, right? All right, so this is going right on that early espresso. So you can see how it's got a slight border. And actually, let's trim it down just a little bit more because it's not quite enough of the early espresso showing through. So let's bring that down just a little bit. So, and just play with it. You just line it up in your paper trimmer and decide how much you want to trim off to get the scene that you want to show through on this gorgeous paper. All right, I think that, there we go, that worked much better just by cutting off like a 1/16 of an inch. All right, so there we go, we've got our otters. So let's go ahead and glue them down. And we'll go ahead and get this glue down, and then we'll make some, we'll make something out of that piece that's left over. So we'll put this right about here. Get that lined up. All right, and then we're going to add our little, our nice twine, or rope as they call it, and we're going to put this towards the bottom as well. Whoops, did I put enough glue on there? Yep, I did. And this, I just love this. And you can always, instead of wrapping it long ways, we could wrap it short ways, but I think having it go the long ways probably makes it look a little bit nicer. And then we're going to do a sentiment on this one. And this one, I think I'm only going to wrap it, no, let's wrap it twice. I think it looks nicer. All right, so we're going to wrap that twice. And then again, we'll adjust the length of it once we get it cut. All right, so we'll go ahead and get this tied off, and then we'll adjust where we want it to actually sit. All right. Don't you love it? Looks like every time I do this, it looks like I'm all thumbs, doesn't it? All right, so we're going to tie this in a knot, and then we'll just trim it off. And you can tie it in a bow if you choose, but I think with it being, it's a little bit thicker, what they call it, the rope, than our twine. So you just want to make sure that you get it, you don't want to put too much bulk. And if it's loose, you can always add tape to the back to hold it in place as well. All right, so we're just going to trim that little piece off right there. And let's make, see, it's a little bit loose, but that's all right. We're gonna push it down, and we'll glue it some on the back to it. So we're gonna have this crisscross like right in the center. So let's just, and you can do tape if you want. See, I could have gotten this a little bit tighter, but we're gonna take our seal and just put a little smidge of the seal, and then you just wanna add your, just pull the twine or your rope up a little bit to where the seal is, and that's gonna hold it tighter on the back of the card. All right, so there's that. So now we'll add this to the, and you can pop these up on dimensionals if you want to do that. We could do that. Let's lay it flat, and then we're gonna do our sentiment. Try to get it in between the lines there. All right, so let's pop that on here. Aren't these otters cute? This is such a cute stamp set. All right, there we go. And of course, these items you can find in my online store, and below the video I'll have the links listed for you. All right, now we're going to stamp a sentiment. As soon as I find me a piece of white, basic white paper. To bring my scraps in. Let's see what we got here. Actually, I think this will work right here. I'm going to use this piece. And we are going to stamp, and I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do it in the Lost Lagoon. And I think we have a room. I think we're going to have enough room. We're going to use a 1 3/4. 1 3/4 circle punch. So I'm going to put that right about here. And then when we get done, I'm going to go back and add some embellishments to the other cards. And we'll dress those up as well. So we're going to get this in here, and I'm going to get that centered. Just pop that out. And then we are going to, let's bring this guy back in here. Pop these up on dimensionals. I have some over here. I'm using up the end pieces, right? Because we don't want to throw this stuff away. So let's cut up a couple of pieces that we can use. And we're going to pop that on here. We'll put a couple of, we'll put three portions of the dimensional on here. All right, so let's get that, and then we'll add some of the irregular embellishments here. Regular Riverside irregular pearls. So we're going to put him. Oh, I got my fish there, huh? Let's see. Oh wait, this is the other guys. We don't want that. Let's put this one. All right, I'm going to put this right about there. Let's see, do I want to do it right there? Right around the rocks. Let's put him right around the rocks right there. And I don't know if I like that or not because it's being covered up. All right, let's do it like this. We'll just turn it at an angle. All right, and then we're going to bring in some of these and attach these. And you know what you could do too, you could cut this. We could have sliced a little bit of a hole right through it, the paper right here before we glued it down, and we could have tucked that right in behind where it looks like it'd be going behind the rock. So just something else to keep in mind when you start creating with this paper. So let's take out some of these and find some spots on here that we can put some of these embellishments. I'm going to use the smaller ones. Let's see. Let's put, I don't want to put one, let's put one right here. I'm going to take this colored one and we're going to add that to our sentiment up here. Oh, thanks, Patty. And then we're going to add another one because you always want to put in odd numbers, right? So you never want to put even. So we'll put another one. Let's do one right there. All right, and then there is our rope twine with our sentiment. And again, you would add your piece of white on the inside of the card. Now this guy looks kind of naked, doesn't he? So let's see what kind of a sentiment we can put on this one. Let me locate the stamp set. How about we could put that we are cute together and put that right up here. Why don't we try that? So let's do that. Let me get a block. And we're going to put that right on here. I'll get my little scrap of white paper back. And we're going to stamp it in the same Lost Lagoon color. Now this one's a longer piece, so I'm going to lay it on my desk flat, and then I'm going to push my block on top of it to make sure my sentiment is straight. And then we'll ink this one up. And with it being a somewhat juicy stamp set, we don't need to do a lot of, we just want to do a little tapping. And I think we should be able to stamp that right about here. And then I'm going to cut this out. There we go. whoops. Close up my ink pad, because you know how we do. We get our fingers stuck in it, right? All right, so let's get our paper trimmer out, cut this up. And I'm just going to load this in here. Let's see, we want to get, I stamped a little crooked, but that's all right. We're going to make it work. So let's get this up in here. We don't need all of that white. So let's move it down to 1/4 of an inch. Let's see what we can do with that. All right, let's cut 1/4 of an inch. There, perfect. And then we're going to come back and do the other. So we're going to make this at, let's see, let me cut this off. Hang on a second. Get all these pieces out of the way so we can get in here and cut it. All right, this one we're going to cut right above this line right here. And again, you use whatever sentiment you have. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. And then that, nope, gotta make it sure it's going to work. Get it lined up. I think that's going to work just like that. All right, and then this piece, since it's got that little cutout there, we're just going to cut this at an angle, and that's going to take that off. And actually, let's trim this down a little bit more, since the paper had that little circle in it. All right, so I'm going to get that lined up. And push down and pull it back. All right, and there is our sentiment. A little crooked, but that's okay. That's what makes it homemade, right? We don't fret about stuff like that. So let's put some dimensionals. Since I have this strip right here of edges, we're just going to cut one long piece and put on here. We're going to do that, and then we'll just put another little piece right here on the end and pull those off. All right, so we're going to add that. Why don't we just do that right in the center of these two guys? It says that we're too cute together. We're cute together. And then let's add some embellishments to that. And let's do some of these down here in the bottom. They have more of the kind of turquoisey hue. So let's pull up one of these. I'm going to put one right here. And we're going to do one of these little tiny ones. Put him down here in the grass. And then we've got to put one more. And we'll add that one. We'll just put it right next to this guy. Okay, so those are the 3 cards. Now let's take a minute and we'll go ahead and take that piece that we've cut off. Let me find it. And we're going to go ahead and make a card base. I'm going to pull in, let's see, which color do we want to use? Do we want to do old? Let's do Old Olive, and then we'll do a piece of Pretty Peacock. So let me grab that real quick. And get some Old Olive. Here we go. All right, so let's go ahead and get our card base cut. All right, so we're going to make this 8.5 by 4 1/4, right? So we're going to score at 4 1/4. We're going to turn it and cut it at 5 1/2. All right, and then we're going to take a piece of Old Olive. Now let's measure what our piece is, what size. I bet you it's a 4. Let's see. This is 3/4 by 3/4, so it's 3/4 square. So let's cut a piece of Old Olive. Ooh, we might have one right here. So we'll do 3/4. So we want, this is 3/4, right? So we want it to be 4 inches. And make it 4 inches by 4. So we want this to be a little bit wider than our designer paper. All right. So we're going to make another one right here. So we're just going to attach that. So we're going to layer that on here, just like that. Actually, we could, I think that'll look good. All right, and this is our pretty peacock card base, so let's get this folded. All right, and let's attach this. We're going to do this in the portrait. So we're going to put it in the portrait mode. But we could do that. Isn't that pretty? That would have been pretty just to do that color. Let's think about that. I'm looking at the stamp set. Give me a minute. I'm thinking. I'm thinking. Oh. Yeah, let's, how are we going to do this? All right, we're going to stamp, I think we're going to stamp an otter. So let's go ahead and glue this down. And I'm going to fussy cut the otter because we don't have time. I don't have time to get up and go get the paper trimmers, the cutter. So let's glue this on here. And then we're going to get a scrap of white. And we're going to stamp our otter. This is like going on the, this is on the fly, isn't it? All right, so let's, give me 1 second. Let me move some of this off the table so that I can have room to operate. And I think the otter fit, let's do the one that's laying down, which will be this guy. Yeah, he'll fit. So let's stamp him. And we're going to take, let me clean my pad off here, my ink. And then we'll put the otter on this one. All right, so we're going to put this little otter right here. Okie doke. And we are going to ink him up with our Memento Black. And then we're just going to color him. And I always like to do it upside down when they're a little bit longer like that. Okay, so let's stamp him down. And we'll just fussy cut him, though we do have the dies. But I don't want to have to get up and hold you up any longer than we need to. All right, so let's color him. Let's see, let's do the pecan pie. Let's get my blends out. So we'll start with our dark. And I'm just going to make a few little marks around some areas that I think should be highlighted. Now his stomach, we're going to leave him probably with like a light beige belly. So we want to be careful how we do that. So I'm going to come in, actually let me do this. We're going to outline this right here. Just a little bit. And I'll come back in just a second. Let's do this part right here on the outside there. We're going to do his tail. And then we're going to come in with one of our light colors. Actually, we could do crumb cake. Let me grab a crumb cake. Sorry, I'm leaning, they're behind me. Nope, we don't want the dark. Let's go with the light. We'll go with the light. And then we'll color the rest of him in the, so this part here, we're going to do light for his belly. So I think they have a little bit of shading on their belly. And I might come back in with the darker and kind of adjust that some. We'll kind of lightly blend it down, fade it in. All right, and probably this part right here. We're going to have him have that. Okay. Now let's finish coloring this little guy. Aren't they the cutest? I swear. Just want to grab them up and just hug them. All right, so we're just going to come in here real quick and make some coloring and just lightly kind of fade this in here. And I'll come back with the crumb cake and we're going to make some final adjustments with that. And you have to be careful because these legs are so small. You don't want to go outside of the... So I think what I'll do right here where it's blending next to the lighter shade, I'm going to bring in the color lifter and we'll lift some of that color up so it makes it look like it's blending in better rather than having this dark line right there. And then we're just going to come down and do his tail. All right. So we'll kind of bring this up just a tad. All right, let's get our color lifter. That's a nice thing about the color lifter because you can lighten up places that you want to have lightened up. So we're just going to blend here to blend where his legs go into the beige where his belly is. All right. And let's get the crumb cake. Whoops, we don't want the dark. Gotta have the light. So we're just going to come in and do a little bit more blending here and a little bit more down in here just to give it a little bit more color between the two. All right. All right, so now we're just going to cut this old guy out, and then we're going to put him on the card, and then we'll have another card made. So we'll just cut this. Now there are dies to this, so if for some reason you buy the set and you don't buy the dies, then you can just fussy cut these out like I'm doing now. But it does come as a bundle, and you get that 10% discount, so just keep that in mind. All right, so we're just going to go around these little feet or paws and cut around. Cut that off. I always have to cut off some of the paper when so it gets it out of my way of my scissors so I can get into the little niches that I need to get into. I don't want to cut off his whiskers because that's what probably makes him, right? Let's come around and there we go. There's our otter. All right, so let's get this put together. I think we can lay him right there. I think he's going to look cute. He's going to look a little lonely, but that's okay. And what did I do with my card base? Here it is. All right, so let's go ahead and attach this on here first. Now, do we want to put any twine on here? Or do we want to leave it as is with our little... I don't think I'm going to put the twine. So let's go ahead and add this, or the rope, they call it. All right, so let's add this to our base. Oops. All right, so we got that there, and then we'll put a sentiment on this one as well. And we're going to pop him up on dimensionals. And let's see what we've got here. Put this guy right there. And we've got a couple more. Put that there. And let's see. We want to get one little piece for the tail. Let's see if we can get this little piece right here to cut in there. That's a smaller piece. All right. Is the Karen? If would you mind? Is it the picture jumping around? Is it doing its kind of jumpiness? If you don't mind, thank you. All right, so I'm going to lay him probably right like this, like he's laying. Put like he's laying on that rock right there. let's see, or he could be like that. Let's do that. Let's put him right about there. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is we need a little, we're going to need a little sentiment. So let's do the Love You Lots. We'll just put that one on there. And you could send this to somebody that, all right, hang on a minute. Let's get the die here. I mean the block. And we're going to do that. And we'll cut a banner out of a piece of scrap. So we're going to put this on a 1/2 inch. And let's do that in, the pretty, let's do it in Pretty Peacock, since that's what our card base is. So let's go ahead and stamp that. No, it's perfect. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't jumping all around. So when I report back to the company. All right, so we're going to stamp Love You Lots, and that's a 1/2 inch of basic white. And I'm just going to cut this in a banner. So we're just going to cut up, let me just try to get that a little bit straighter. Make a little flag. All right. And let's do the other end. Let me trim that down just a tad as well. Just cut up the center. And then just go corner to corner to make your flag. And then you can just pull that off. That's a little bit off, but that's okay. No one's going to notice it. And we're going to put that right about there. And we're going to pop that one up on dimensionals as well. So we'll use up our little strips that we have. And this is where, actually, this is where we can put a little bit of twine. So before we add that, let's do that. Hang on a minute, I gotta get this thing off my finger. You know how you try to add something and then change your mind? All right, so we're gonna put a little bit of seal on the back of this. I'm gonna take a little bit of the twine. It's not gonna be much. I'm gonna wrap it around my fingers. And then I'm going to trim this off. I think I'm only going to wrap it twice. No, let's do 3. All right, I'm going to trim this off, and then we're going to twist it and place it behind. All right, so I'm going to wrap it around, and then I'm going to grab the center, and I'm going to do a twist, and we're going to put that right on that sticky part where I put the adhesive. Hang on a minute. Hold up, my pieces are sticking to my fingers. Hang on a minute, let's get this one more time here. So I'm wrapping it. I got the end pieces, so we want to make sure we get those, and we'll trim those down if they're in the way. And I'm just going to twist it and put it at an angle. And then we're going to put a dimensional on top of that to help hold that down. So let's put this guy there. And now that part's going to be up a little bit high, but that's okay. All right, and then we're going to grab another dimensional piece. We probably could use our little mini dimensionals. And we're going to put one right about here. Hang on a second, because I'm going to move this out of the way. All right, we'll get that there. And then we're going to add another little piece right here. All right, put that there. And take this off. Actually, I think I'm going to take this one in the center off because it's way too bulky. So let's move that. And then we have our twine, and we'll trim this guy up in just a second. Let's go ahead and do that now. He doesn't need to be hanging that much off. There we go. And we're going to put him at an angle. Still have it. Hang on. Did I take all? Yeah, I did. I want to make sure I took all the paper off. The adhesive backing. Okay, let's see. Give me 1 minute. Let me clean up the table so I can get these cards back and show you what we've designed today. Hang on 1 minute. Okay, let's bring them all in. Now you'll see the way we cut everything. We just have a few scraps here. Now these scraps we can use. So for instance, if we, and I don't have a piece of basic white right now, but if you put your basic white on the inside, you could add this to it. And then that's going to give the inside of the card a nice little look. And the same thing on this side. So let's see what we got here. Let's just cut us one. We'll do that. All right, we're going to cut for the inside piece. What do we need? 8 1/4 by 3 3/8, right? So let's do, what did I say, 8 1/4? 3 3/8. 3. All right. And then we're going to turn this and cut this at 8 1/4. So let's move that down. And we'll cut that. So we'll add that to the inside of this card, and then we'll add one to the other side. So that's going to be the inside of the card. So let's take this piece. Let's do the smaller one. We're going to add this right here. It's going to go right to the end. So that's perfect. All right, so let's take our adhesive, and I'm using those, putting it on the back side because I want to show those pebbles. They're so pretty. All right, and then we're just going to attach that to the bottom of our basic white. And then that's going to go right on the inside so we can write our message. And that just dresses it up. And then, of course, you can always decorate your envelopes with your paper as well. So don't forget that. All right, so we're going to move that. And we're going to put that right here. See how it dresses up the inside of your envelope, the inside of your card, just by putting that little piece of paper there. Can you see that? Isn't that pretty? So you can see the pebbles and the otters, and then open the card and it's got a little decoration on the inside. So we'll do the same thing. Let's cut a piece for this one. So this piece is going to be 4 by 5 1/2, right? So we're going to cut 4 inches and turn it and cut it at, whoops, that's a little short, isn't it? Let's see, what does that make that? Makes it at 5 1/8. That's all right. That'll work because we want 5 1/4, 5 1/8 to work. All right, so we're going to place that there, and then we'll do the same thing. We're going to take this piece and we're going to put that right on the side here, or you can run it up the side. Let's do it at the bottom, and then we'll trim off the excess. So I'm going to put it on my card base, and that way I can make sure I've got it right where I need it, and lay the paper on top, and then we'll trim that off. Then we have the right size. So we're going to lay that right there. All right. Okay, and we will trim that off. And you can do this to all the other cards too, as if you choose. Since you've got the little scraps, then you might as well put them to work, right? All right, and then we're going to add that to the inside of this card. Now, I don't stamp anything, as you all know. Those that watch me every week, I don't put anything on the inside of the card because I like to write my message when I get ready to mail it out. And there you go. Now we do have this down here, but we could have placed this down here if we wanted to do that. I did not take, hang on a second, this piece, I didn't take the backing off. That's why it's not sticking. Pop that down. And you could put something down here if you chose to, but you don't have to. All right, so there is the 2 cards right here using some scraps. Let me find the other one. All right, so here's the one that we made, and then there's that one. I'm using our scrap pieces. And then here are the 3 cards using that one sheet of paper. There's the one otter with the other. and then the 2 here, and then this one here. So that's what you can do with that beautiful paper. And you can do this with any designer paper that has scenes like this. You can just cut them down to the size that you need to make your cards work. So there you go. I hope you all enjoyed this. And I apologize again for the initial shutting down and having to reboot it. But thank you for sticking with me. I greatly appreciate it. And welcome again. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. And I will be back next Tuesday for another Facebook Live, which will be on Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, everyone, thanks again. If you have any questions, please leave me a message. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And again, you can find any and all of these supplies in my online store, and the link will be below in the video. All right, thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you soon. Bye now. Somebody's snoring. Oh, she's so sweet. Okay. Well, I get to tell them all that. You can use your computer now, darling, if you haven't. So something's going on with my computer, with the iPad. That'd be the problem. Lost Lagoon. And Gray Granite. All right, so you're going to get filed away. Come up here. We got lots of paper now. We can make more cards. We'll do some one-sheet wonders with these.